Hey, what's up? Just gonna record this for the benefit of explaining a couple card choices and going through a little bit of gameplay of a recent deck I've been jamming a lot on Magic Online. This is my take on Dark Maverick, or as other people call it, Abzan Maverick. And this is the current 75 that I plan on playing in a league today. I wanted to go by and discuss a couple card choices. First off, I want to touch upon the mana base. There's 19 lands, 23 lands here. Starts off with 3 wastelands and a ghost quarter. Admittedly, this is due to some amount of budget constraints. It gets me under my rental limit. Primary reason for ghost quarter I'll touch upon later, but there is a reason to be playing one ghost quarter over wasteland. There's 14 core lands in the deck that really tap for mana and nothing else. That's 7 fetch lands, 5 dual lands, and a basic plains and a basic forest. A lot of Maverick decks sometimes play 3 basic lands and only 1 Bayou rather than 2. This version of Dark Maverick is playing more black spells in the main than is typical and leans very heavily on a lot of black sideboard cards. Most other 3-color Maverick decks featuring black tend to play very few black cards in the main. For me, it's a bit of a personal preference, and I've shifted around the mana base to accommodate that. Given that we're a toolbox deck, we have access to finding spells that find us some of our lands. Dryad Arbor is very important in this deck, primarily because it allows Green Sun Zenith to act as a mana dork, which means you have 8 cards that let you accelerate to 3 mana on by turn 2. Critical for being able to actually interact with your opponent on turns 2 and 3. Bajuka Bog is a way to tutor up Graveyard Hate at instant speed with Knight of the Reliquary. Caracas is a way of dealing with a lot of unfair decks that cheat large monsters into play, particularly Emrakul, Grizzlebrand, and it also has a lot of added value against cards like Questing Beast and Leovold, as long as giving you a little bit of play with your own Thalia and occasionally your Yatic Teak. Horizon Canopy is a card that basically allows you to turn one of your lands into a card if you have another Reliquary in play. A lot of these cards are evaluated with respect to how they interact with another Reliquary, and which is basically the keystone card of the deck. But Horizon Canopy lets you leverage your lands into card advantage with a Knight of the Reliquary, and perhaps lets you get into a longer grindier game with if you have a Ramunap Excavator in play. Lastly, among the what I call do something lands is Gaia's Cradle, which, unlike other legacy decks that play 4 of, we only play 1 of, because we don't. Given that we're a multicolor deck, given that Maverick rather is a multicolor deck, it cannot leverage Gaia's Cradle reliably, but in situations where it calls for it is incredibly powerful. The next 15 cards I want to touch upon are basically the core cards of the deck. I think every Maverick deck should be playing at least 3 Mana Dorks, probably 4. In this case, I have 3 Noble Hierarchs and a Birds of Paradise. The reasoning behind the Birds of Paradise is that it taps for black, and it is also, in very certain situations, a cheap flyer that you can Green Sun Zenith for to block a Merit Lage. Source of Plashers is the best white removal spell in Legacy right now. May change in the future, but it is the best card in your deck against Delver of Secret stratagems, and as such you want 4. It does what it does better than any other card in the format. Answer threats effectively, answers just about everything. No reason not to play 4. There's 4 Knight of the Reliquaries. This is probably any hand you keep in the dark usually wants to go turn 1 Mana Dork, or turn 1 Green Zenith, turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary. It's a very efficient creature in terms of size to cost. It's reasonable to Green Sun Zenith for, and that gives you a tremendous ability to you leverage the toolbox aspect of your mana base. The ability to find wastelands and pressure your opponent either on their mana or just by attacking with a large creature is a testament to its versatility. On a more controversial note, I'm playing 3 Thalia Garden of Thraben. Most lists play 4. Thalia is one of two creatures in this deck that you cannot Green Sun Zenith for, but the effect that she offers is so incredibly powerful against most unfair decks and a lot of fair decks that you just want to be playing at least 3. I find that in the current metagame there are a number of fair decks that devolve into against whose matchup you devolve into a longer game, and in situations where you have a Thalia in play, drawing a second Thalia can be incredibly demoralizing, as it often gets into a sort of a top deck war. So I choose to play 3 for that reason. Second creature that you cannot Green Sun Zenith for is Plague Engineer. Plague Engineer is the most prevalent creature in Legacy today. It has affected the build of this deck quite a bit. Traditionally, this deck plays some number of Mother of Runes to protect its larger creatures, but I find that in the face of Plague Engineer in Legacy today, that is an unworthy undertaking. Another card that is omitted from this deck is Stoneforge Mystic, which I choose not to play for a number of reasons, primarily because I greatly dislike drawing equipment, and beyond that, I think the cost of getting all that online is just not where it needs to be, given how efficient a lot of artifact removal is. Sylvan Library has seen an uptick in play over the last 6 months in Legacy, with a lot of life gain being introduced to the format via Uro, but still the card is probably, some would say it's the best green card in the format, and people who say that definitely have a very solid case. Lets you filter your cards against slower decks and combo decks. You just oftentimes just instantly pay 8 to draw 2 extra cards, and it lets you get a real leg up in the matchup. Among my black cards, I like playing Abrupt Decay. I'm personally a tremendous fan of the card Abrupt Decay. It answers a lot of things and usually has applications in almost every matchup. It is a uncounterable removal spell against a lot of very cheap flyers out of Delver, which I value greatly, and although it has somewhat intensive mana cost, it's very rarely dead. Next among my card selections are the toolbox cards, 3 Once Upon a Times and 4 Green Zeniths. Once Upon a Times have let you go down a land, and Green Zenith often acts as a land in the form of just paying 1 to find a Dryad Arbor. But they give you the ability to find cards you need in matchups where you need them. Your matchups tend to be very unpolarized, given the toolbox nature of the deck, and if you know when to tutor for which cards in the matchup, you will be greatly rewarded for having these cards at the ready. Next, I have the list of toolbox cards that are generally present. Most of these are generally present in some way in decks, but there is generally a great variance among the exact permutation of toolbox cards in Maverick decks, so I'll go by my selections. Hex Drinker is a very cheap threat. It can get played very early and is very good in late game. Its best applications are often the mirror, where Source of Plowshares is used either on a Mana Dork to deny mana or on a Knight of the Reliquary to deny the toolbox aspect. There's very few answers in the main or in the 75 really, for a Hex Drink with Protection from Instance. So in the mirror, it often comes down to just a race of who can find a Hex Drinker and jam it. Very powerful, very cheap, very efficient. Next is Sylvan Safekeeper. This is the card that most makes me want to issue using Mother of Runes. It is also vulnerable to Plague Engineer, but often in the matchups where you want it, which are slower blue decks, throwing away a land to counter a removal spell is very much well worth it, and it is just so utterly insane against those decks. I'd say that having a Sylvan Safekeeper in your main board against against blue-white control decks gives you at least 5 percentage points in that matchup. It is very strong. Gaddock Teague is probably the worst card in this deck against what you're doing. It turns off your own Green Sun Zeniths, which is a tremendous pain in the ass. But it also is a card that lets you assemble a soft lock against a lot of the slower control decks running around. Once you have a Gaddock Teague and a Sylvan Safekeeper out, it's very hard for your opponent to remove any of your creatures in any way. Removal spells are dead if you have lands, and Wraths generally can't be cast. The only thing you really have to worry about are Pyroclasm effects and Toxic Deluge. This card also just kills some decks if it comes into play in Game 1, primarily Ad Nauseam Tendril Storm. Scrib Ranger is probably the 60th card I have in my deck. I think this card is generally not as good in matchups in decks that don't feature Mother of Runes, but being a flash protection from blue flyer means that you get a lot of leeway in the Delver matchup. They have to point a bolt at it to oftentimes get their Delvers to deal damage to you. Being a flying creature is also very big. Being a flying creature that can indefinitely block Delver and Sprite Dragon, and the silly 6-mana whale whose name Ethereal Forager, is a big boon, and I wish I didn't have to play it. I wish that Blue-Red Delver weren't as prevalent, but it is a reality of the meta right now. Scavenging Ooze is the graveyard hate card of choice. Might be supplanted by some Flash 3/4 incarnations in the future, but as of right now, it's a clean answer to Uro. It gives you game against Dredge and Hogak Game 1. It's also good in against a lot of combo decks. Collector Oof is one of my favorite recent additions to the Legacy format. And by recent, I mean I guess in the last 2 years. This card gives you a lot of game against a lot of degenerate artifact strategies, and against decks that lean heavily on Lion's Eye Diamond, it is often as good, if not better, than Thalia. Knight of Autumn is a naturalize on a stick. It has the upside of being an efficient creature when it doesn't have any other applications. It can just be a 3-mana 4/3. It can gain you some life against Blue-Red Delver and against Burn, but mostly it's there just so you can answer Blood Moon if you have a basic forest, answer an Ensnaring Bridge, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, as I jump into the league, it'll be apparent how wide its range is. I play this card over Kasali Pride Mage mostly because I don't like sacrificing creatures to have an effect, although there are adherents to the deck who generally prefer Kasali Pride Mage. Ramunap Excavator is basically there to hose very greedy mana bases when you have a wasteland in your hand, in play, or in your graveyard. It lets you loop wastelands and basically gives you tremendous endgame threat against slower decks that have unstable mana bases. Also lets you grind value with your own fetch lands and Horizon Canopy. Lastly, there's a Questing Beast. This card is here to answer Planeswalkers. Killing Planeswalkers is what it does. It's what it's here for. And it also is a generally pretty fast clock against combo decks. I love this card. I think it has cemented its place in Maverick decks so long as there exists a subset of decks that play Planeswalkers, which there's an ever-growing quantity of in Legacy. Having covered my main board, I'm going to move on to my sideboard here. There's 4 ley lines. There's some decks that just kill you on turn on turn 1. So, oops, Reanimator. You need ley lines. You're not a deck that plays Force of Will. Credit to one Jacob Altman for hammering that in to me. Dotsies, I think, is one of the best interactive cards. And it's the biggest upside to playing black outside of Plague Engineer in this deck. I'll bring it in very frequently. I'll basically bring it in against most decks that don't play red, just because of how powerful the card is. Prelate is another card that is just lights out against combo decks some decks when you play it. I'll generally bring it in against any cantrip strategy and most unfair decks. Choke is a hedge against the slow blue decks, which I think, and Delver. Probably could use some number of Carpet Flowers in here, but they're not here due to budget considerations. Vraska Golgari Queen is a card that many of my friends like to lay into me for always sideboarding in. I like it as a removal spell against Delver. I like it as a card that can grind advantage in slow matchups. Also against weird artifact strategies, being an extra Abrupt Decay is tremendous. Plague Engineer is, well, there's 2 in the main. I don't think there's room for a third, but it's there to kill creatures and it's very good at it. Path to Exile is Swords to Plowshares number 5 when you need it. Some decks don't play basics, so it's better than Swords to Plowshares in that situation, but against the decks that you want for, it's just there to either kill giant creatures or, well, kill giant creatures, kill small creatures, kill medium creatures. It kills everything. Force of Vigor is one of my personal favorite cards to play in decks like this. I think every green deck in Legacy should be playing at least 1 Force of Vigor in the sideboard. 1, I despise Blood Moon and everything that it stands for. It's a menace to the format. It makes gameplay miserable. Force of Vigor here is to, well, piss in the cereal of the Blood Moon's players. There's also a bunch of artifact decks, but I'm gonna be real. Force of Vigor is just here to kill Blood Moons. Anyway, that's the deck, and let's jump into a league, I guess. Another notable thing about my deck is that a lot of my cards are mismatched. This is largely due to personal preference. I could give you some played out spiel about how it lets you assess which cards are good in what matchups. So in case you want to gauge whether you want 3 of a card or 4 of a card in certain matchups, so you can let you do that when you're testing. But I'm just here to tilt all the perfectionists who want to perfectly match their decks. Alright. On the die roll. This hand is intriguing. It has a Green Sun Zenith and a Hex Drinker. It has a turn 1 play. Verdant Catacombs lets me find a basic forest and insulate myself from wastelands. Wastelands are devastating in the right matchup. I'm gonna keep this mostly because it has 2 wastelands in it, and I get to interact with my opponent by having an early threat and just denying the mana. Also, there's 7 cards in it, which is the best part about keeping 7 card hands. You get to laugh at all the people who mulliganed. Windswept Teeth. Okay, this could be the mirror. This could be elves. This could be Bant Miracles. Taiga. Ooh, this could be a land stratagem. Ooh, a Mox Diamond. This looks like a land stratagem. Land stratagems are typically on the favorable side because they have a hard time answering either reliquary. White mana. So Life from the Loam. Oh, that's very unfortunate. This means we don't get to leverage our wastelands very well, but they are still good in this matchup. In this situation, I'm going to use my Green Sun Zenith. Well, currently the consideration for me is if I want to use Green Sun Zenith to find a Birds of Paradise or Noble Hierarch, because having extra mana against this deck is generally very strong. They are resource denial. You have to operate on a resource denial basis. So the option is basically to get a Dryad Arbor, get a Mana Dork, or to just pump 2 mana into a Hex Drinker. And I think I'm actually going to just get a Mana Dork here, mostly so I have the ability to land a Nether Reliquary next turn. I'm going to do this pre-combat so I can get an Exalted trigger off a Noble Hierarch. So now I'm going to be looking to gem a Nether Reliquary. I have a Caracas, so I'm insulated against fast starts with a Merit Lage. My biggest concern right now is playing against a Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale, because that would greatly slow me down. But given that I have Wastelands, I have the ability to mitigate that. Riftstone Portal is an absolute sweet card that you don't actually see play very much. This card lets a bunch of our opponents' lands that don't tap for mana, otherwise tap for green or white. I'm surprised my opponent did absolutely nothing there. Okay. Well, let's see if our Hextrinker gets Punishing Fired. Nope. Drawing Windswept Heath here was, well, I'm already somewhat insulated. Ooh, 3 mana instant. Crop Rotation. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay. Oh wow, I'm dead. That's, oh right, they have a Riftstone Portal. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I could have avoided this by playing a Caracas or Wasteland, but I just didn't. It shows you how much every little bit counts. Alright. That was surprising. Yeah, given that my opponent passed there, I should have literally played any land besides Windswept Heath. That was a bad misplay on my part. Things to board in. Sanctum Prelate. Force of Vigors. This deck often plays Mox Diamonds, Explorations, and Valakut Awakenings. Leyline of the Void is very strong against Life from the Loam. Cards that go out. Gaddock Teak. Doesn't stop anything. Plague Engineer is generally poor. The only creatures they ever play are Elvish Reclaimer and Tireless Tracker, neither of which died of Plague Engineer. I don't like Thalia in this matchup very much. They do generally play a number of non-creature spells. But so do I, and I think that other cards are just better. I generally cut 1 copy of Swords to Plowshares, but given how aggressive our opponent was making it, I suspect that they may be more all in on making a Merit Lage than playing things like Valakut Awakening and Field of the Dead. I don't like Once Upon a Times as much. Given that all of our cards generally are reasonable in this matchup. Leave in a Thalia. Leave in a Once Upon a Time. Cut these. Leave this in. Sure. Yeah, let's try this. This hand is kind of clunky, but it has a Sylvan Library and has a lot of Swords to Plowshares. So the chances that I die early are very low. So let's keep it. It's got 7 cards in it. It's got a Leyline. This is generally why I don't... How I often like... why I like cutting the Swords of Plowshares in this matchup. Because often it doesn't do anything for a while. Until they actually go for it. Ooh. Okay. Ooh, that's a good one. Alright, stuck a Sylvan Library, so we can get the ball rolling. Being above 20 or below 20 is somewhat significant in this format, but given that this deck often plays Punishing Fire, it's not as concerning. Okay. Ooh. It's a Valakut Awakening. Oh, that's a card you hate to see here. Wasteland is terrifying. It's the reason I didn't play Horizon Canopy last turn, so as to not expose my white source. Okay. I'm going to instantly pay 8 because I need to find another land so I don't die to a second wasteland. And I'm just going to fire off an Abrupt Decay on their Valakut Awakening so that they cannot find ways to deal with my enchantments. Oh, they have another one. That's very strong. Ooh, but they didn't find another land. That's encouraging. Oh, yes. Oh, this is about to be a tremendous blowout. We're gonna put Questing Beast on top. We're gonna pay 4 life for our Force of Vigor. Here I'm just going to jam into play a Raminap Excavator. Yes. Stop on the upkeep. And absolutely demolish my opponent. Force of Vigor has a tremendous number of applications. It's very good in this matchup now that they play Valakut Awakening too. Oh boy, drop of honey. Well, I guess we're not playing a creature next turn. We're going to play Windswept Heath despite having a Bayou in our yard to shuffle away those 2 lands because we want to find some action. Okay. Yep. Alright. They have paid a green mana to destroy my creature. Ooh. No play to follow up. I suspect they have a Life from the Loam that's stranded in their hand because of the Sylvan Library. Oh, I didn't even fetch. I guess I'll fetch in response to this trigger. Look rather silly doing so. Okay, that's good. Need white mana for my Nether Reliquary. Now this is a tremendous threat that can basically answer most of their threats. And I will likely be using it on my upkeep to shuffle away the 2 cards I don't want on top of my deck. And to find a wasteland to take them off their only green source. To sacrifice either my Savannah and my Bayou. I'm going to sacrifice my Bayou. No, I'm going to sacrifice my Savannah. I have a... Hee. Okay. Okay. Yes. Ooh. Now we get to wastelanding their green source. And we'll pay full retail on this Force of Vigor, and that's going to destroy one Sylvan Library. Your move, opponent. Nice. Alright. That's what the deck is supposed to do in this matchup. You land a Knight of the Reliquary, and, well, 2 for 2ing with Force of Vigor is always a big deal. It is. All of your quote-unquote 4-mana free spells are tremendous in this matchup. Alright. Let's see how they... I probably should have boarded in that Vraska over this. This hand is... not great, but good enough. What is this? Taiga Pass. Alright, well, we know what we're here to do. We have a Replicate available to us, and Wasteland, and Knight of the Reliquary. Ooh, that's a concerning card. 1 and a red. Punishing Fire. Ay, ay, ay. Well, on the plus side, we no longer have any one-drops that we're worried about protecting from this blast zone. So I'm just gonna kill a Taiga and see if my opponent has any more green sources. It's very unfortunate that I don't have any real plays next turn. Almost as unfortunate as our opponent having no real plays. Aha. Alright, so now I've got an Abrupt Decay in the chamber. We get to wait. See what our opponent does. Mox Diamond. Okay. Pitching a Thespian stage. Okay. 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 Deny some more mana. Crop rotation. Oh boy. Yep. They need their mana. I'm just gonna slam this here 5/5. And hopefully shut the door very soon. Knight of the Reliquary lets me find. Ooh, a Tabernacle. Alright. I'm not going to attack with my Knight of the Reliquary with the intent of wastelanding a Tabernacle at the end of their turn, I suppose, unless they have a Rift Zone portal in their yard somehow. Alright, what's this? Majuka Bog. Ooh, that's unfortunate. Shrink our Knights a lot. the best way I can answer this? Okay, so this is going to take a tap for green. Sacrifice this. Now this, I want to cast this green something for something very impactful, which is going to be a Gaia's Cradle. Taps for 2 mana. Yeah. Yeah, this is where I want to be. Span, so click on the right thing. There's a ramming up excavator. Now this turns a Bayou. Aha! On the side of knowing that they're going to get Wasteland locked over and over again, they decided to concede the match. Alright, despite a horrific blunder in game 1, we managed to go forward unpunished. Lands is, in my opinion, the best matchup among the most played decks for Maverick. Your ability to generate extra mana very reliably is good against their mana denial strategy, and Knight of the Reliquary is perhaps the single best creature against them, given that it can find Caracas to punish Merit Lage, Wasteland to punish their own somewhat vulnerable mana base, and Bajuka Bog to punish Life from the Loam. It really goes on and on. This hand is fantastic. It's everything you want it to be. You're good against spells, you're good against creatures, you have a green Sicilian to find anything that's, I guess, in between. You have Acceleration. It's a dream hand. Only needs a Swords of Plowshares to be better. Alright, this is Death and Taxes. That's generally a favorable matchup. Thalia is useless. Plague Engineer is absolutely insane. In this situation, I'm finding a basic forest. Nope, that was an actual mistake again, because now I can't cast Plague Engineer. But hopefully we'll find something better to do on turns 2, 3, and 4. Having a basic land against Death and Taxes is also just fine. Next turn, I hope to use Knight of Autumn to destroy Aether Vial. Don't let this card fool you. This card, it's a Soul Ring. It's just a Soul Ring, but better, because it taps for colored mana. Thalia is not great against us. Not terrible, not great. Just about right. Here, I'm opting to deny my opponent some mana. Truly an absurd card. The Aether Vial, not the Knight of Autumn. Knight of Autumn is, just good. Aether Vial is absurd. This Caracas is also good against my own Thalia, which is bad. This Thalia is very upsettingly bad in this matchup. Alright, my opponent has decided to be the aggressor. A Wasteland. Alright, well, our mana base is well insulated from that. A Recruit of the Guard is another strong draw for my opponent. Probably finds a Skyclave Apparition or a Flicker Wisp to let them loop value. Skyclave Apparition. Okay. Ooh. Sylvan Library is one of the better cards to have drawn here. I would have played it there if my opponent didn't show me the Skyclave Apparition that is now in their hand. And it will be used to hopefully grind my opponent to the dust. I'm very surprised my opponent cast Skyclave Apparition here. I don't think any of my... and they took the one that isn't mana. Oh boy. This is very subpar sequencing. Because now I will eat a Skyclave Apparition. I'll give my opponent 2 life for... Oh! For some reason I thought they had taken a Knight of Autumn. That's another mistake on my part. Yep. Oh well. We live and we learn. I'm just slamming a Plague Engineer to remove 2 of their creatures. This card is good with Karakas. This card is good with Flicker Wisp. Humans must go. So currently, Green Sun Zenith gives me the ability to answer just about any card that they get. If they have a Stoneforge Mystic, I can get a Collector Oof to turn off equipment. Another Skyclave is imperative for them to answer this Plague Engineer. Which then clears the path for, I believe, the Sylvan Library. I'm going to play a Thalia as well, though it is detrimental to our own Green Zenith. I think this is in reserve, and I am fine living with it if I have a Thalia in play. Otherwise, my opponent has to devote a Karakas to getting rid of it. It also saves me 2 life by presenting itself as a blocker for Skyclave Apparition. Well, my opponent's had no shortage of this effect. Okay. You did it. Let's be disciplined and hit our opponent first. I'm happy to trade off a Knight of the Autumn for either a creature in a 2/2 or a creature in a 3/3. Now I have a 4/4 that's secretly a 5/5, and my opponent has a board of very little. Skyclave is definitely very strong for Death and Taxes. It was a tremendous addition for the deck, a big boon for it. But in this match, and in this matchup it traditionally is good, but usually there has to be something backing it up. And Plague Engineer just coming in and nuking 2 of their creatures was an absolute disaster for them. Stoneforge Mystic, sure. They found an Umezawa's Jite. Very powerful card against us. I think I intend to present lethal damage to my opponent. Let's see how they respond. Okay. Ah, yes. Um... So now I'm going to use my Green Zenith to find a Collector Oof. This is there mostly to prevent them from somehow leveraging an Umezawa's Jite against us. Thalia is also important to recast here because the ability to get both Collector Oof and Thalia means that my opponent doesn't have the mana to use Swords to Plowshares and put it in Jite and equip or something like that. My opponent has granted me the gift of 5 life in exchange for my creature. Well, right now the card I'm most worried about is Batterskull. Batterskull would be a beating here. And the fact that they didn't get it with Stoneforge Mystic suggests to me that they have it. So I'm going to take a rather conservative line and not lose a creature to Batterskull and play neither Reliquary. And also jam a Dry Arbor. Alright. Here it is. Yep. If I had done the face-up attack of attack 1, 2, 3, 4 creatures to put my opponent to 2, they would have eaten the Collector Oof and then untapped, found a Jite, equipped it, and this game would have been far closer. Instead, I have a Collector Oof, and my opponent needs to find a 3rd Skyclave Apparition, I think. Yeah, a 4th Skyclave Apparition, or a 2nd Swords of Plowshares to answer it. I guess that's one of those things. Unless... Alright. What am I losing? Neither Reliquary. Unfortunate. Well. Let's see what we get. Continuing to find neither Reliquaries is... It's really something, I do say so. Unfortunately, this Batterskull means that I don't really have very many profitable attacks. And the looming threat of a removal spell for my Collector Oof is very concerning. If I draw a Swords to Plowshares, I attack with with all my creatures, or rather, all that can deal damage. I lose 1, 2, 3, 4. I push through 4 damage. So if I Swords to Plowshares one thing, okay. Yep. Maybe I should have gotten Sylvan Safekeeper. Another powerful draw. Oh, I don't have a Thalia in play. Yeah, I'll redeploy this so my opponent can't put in a sword for free. Card I really should incorporate into the 75 is Maze of Ith. I just don't know where there's room for it. Alright, well, we've got a lot riding on this collector roof. A lot. Surprised my opponent didn't take it with a Skyclave Apparition 3 turns ago. Revoker will turn off my Knight of the Reliquary, so I'm going to cash in this here forest for a Horizon Canopy. Just for an extra card. I anticipate my opponent will not be attacking with their Batterskull. Yep, I have a 6/6, and that's all it does. It will attack for 7 next turn, and it will demand a block. Let's see what we get. Ooh, that's not something we wanted. I'm going to pay for life for this Birds of Paradise. What can Greensun Zenith get that isn't a Knight of the Reliquary? Can't get a Knight of Autumn, it can't get a Collector Roof. It can get a Sylvan Safekeeper to forever protect my creature. Down the road I can get a Questing Beast, but I don't want to do that because they have a Caracas. So, let's attack for 8. I actually should have gotten a Sylvan Safekeeper beforehand. There's the Jite. Okay. That's to pay an extra mana because of Thalia. Oh, wait. Hold on. No, as a matter of fact, I'm going to get a Hex Drinker. I'm going to get a Hex Drinker because that will end the game unless they have a removal spell right here. Or in the next draw step, rather. Load up this bad boy. Protection from instants. Okay. We will demand an answer from our opponent, or they shall die horribly. That's actually not true either, because they can attack with their Batterskull. Whoops. And instead, if I had... No, I don't, because I can't get both Sylvan... A trick you can often use is you can sacrifice your Dried Arbor to deny life gain from a Batterskull. Is that what they're in for? Nope. They've just decided that they've had enough. Grindy game 1. Alright, in this matchup, Plague Engineer is your best card. Force of Vigor would have been crazy on that board, given how many things it can destroy. Thoughtseize lets you pick apart their hand. That's very good against Stoneforge Mystic. You get to take out a lot of tremendous threats. Vraska is an all-around star. Thalia is useless in this matchup. Gaddock is useless in this matchup. I don't like Once Upon a Times, given how my opponent can keep in Thalia, and this effect. I mean, obviously, if you cast it for free, you'd never want to board it out. But if you're ever caught with your pants down, and it's often just a dead card. Beyond that, there's considerations for a Path to Exile and perhaps a Sanctum Prelate, but I don't know, not a Sanctum Prelate. Throw this here and consider cards to cut. Sometimes I've considered cutting Bajuka Bog in matchups like this where it absolutely never does anything, but it's just an extra black source. It's a land that taps for mana against a deck with 4 Wastelands and 4 ports. Script Ranger isn't great. Let's get the Script Ranger out of here. Oh, Path to Exile. My opponent will always have a land to find for their Path to Exile. Okay, what's this? This is a turn 1 Mana Dork and a turn 2 Thoughtseize and Wasteland. That's good for me. Although my opponent is playing a monocolored deck, Wasteland can hit Port, Wastelands, and Caracases. Sometimes they also play other stuff like Tower of the Magistrates or the Core Haven, I think it's called. Ooh, another fantastic draw. Loading up on black sources. There was a time I considered playing a basic swamp in this deck. Just to be able to have it. Mostly it was to have Plague Engineer against Goblin Stompy decks that can Blood Moon you. But it is absolutely useless game 1. Well, not absolutely, but it is limited in its applications game 1. Alright? That's fine. Oh, I have to pay 2 for this. Yeah, still want it. What do you got? Either Sworn Canonist and Serra Avenger. Well, I'm about to wasteland my opponent from Caracas, and I don't actually think that I care about this card. And this card is absolutely and utterly horrifying. So, goodbye, Umezawa's Jitte. They will have it. I guess they will have an Aether Vial. Still want this gone. Next turn they can vial in a Canonist or a Serra Avenger and then port me down, take me off mana source. But I will likely Green Sun Zenith for a Bird of Paradise. Okay. Wait. This play was not great, I don't think. Deciding to go for 2 creatures is kind of wild. Alright, well, let's do the thing where I devastate my opponent by playing my absolutely silly card that probably shouldn't exist in this format. This is also incidentally a human, which is pretty convenient. Oop. This also clears the path for Thalia, for Vraska to come in and do her dirty business. So they have a port, they don't have these. One card in hand is... They have one card in hand, it's their Shodden port. Let's see what they draw. I guess I'm being ported off Vraska. That's fine. Oh, it has Vigilance? Sure. I haven't seen this card in a while. I haven't seen either of these cards in a while, truthfully. Okay. Oh, yes. I presume that they... Oh, this was actually a very loose attack. Especially if you have Nathan Vile on 3. Yeah, I don't know what another very poor decision. That's okay. Let's play Hex Drinker. Hope they don't have anything to Vile in. Oh, yes, we faded it. Nice. I think they would have Viled in a Flicker Wisp earlier if they had it. So I'm just going to fire off the Source of Plashers on a 3/3 flyer. Nice. Nice. I tapped an extra mana because I suppose they thought they had a Thalia. Whoops. It's been rusty. It's been a couple weeks since my last league. One card in hand. What's the worst it could be? I don't know. I accept. That's a pretty bad one. Okay. Well, Zveska would have just disappeared. This is still quite bad for me. I would like to keep a creature. And I would like to keep land, but which one? This one. Boom. I kept a port. That's wild. Yeah. Yeah, it's... Let's get a Bird Paradise. That way they can't take us off black if we draw one of our basics. Alright, well... It's top deck war, and my opponent has... Well, 4 mana, but not 4 mana. It's actually 1 mana or 3 mana. But it's never 2 mana. Okay, well. Now my opponent will have 1 mana. Drawing that fetch land there was absolutely crucial. I guess I can still cast Green Sun Zenith for 0 to get a Dryad Arbor. No, my Dryad Arbor was dead. Yeah, I couldn't even have done that. So what is this? Sure. The ability to just find mana in this deck is so utterly strong. I should have attacked with my Collector Roof there, not my Plague Engineer. That way I am less exposed to blocking with a Collector Roof and then having my Plague Engineer plowed and then losing my Collector Roof as well. This way, if my opponent attacks him, sort of priced into taking one, which, you know, is by no means a catastrophe, but oh boy. I suppose this is fine. I didn't get ported, which is grand. Yeah, well, let's see if they have something first. Let's hit him. Oh, my opponent not putting in a 3-drop creature there was absolutely tremendous. Granted, I do lose. Oh well, this was a poor attack. Okay, well, I guess the attack ultimately didn't matter. Still lose my Vraska. All right. Back to the top deck ward goes. Do I let my opponent have a thing? Okay. Shocking. So I bet my opponent has equipment in their hand. Alright, what you got? Gideon, ally of Zendikar. Holy. Well, it's terrifying, but take this Mother Runes, I guess. Okay, that's bad news for us. In all likelihood, it was probably actually correct to take the Gideon there, because I don't think Mother Runes is that big, but I don't know. I have a 9/9 now? Oh, my opponent, I suppose, did not find an answer. Okay, well, another couple hiccups, but not too many. Yeah, funnily enough, I don't have this deck built in paper entirely. I have most of the big ticket stuff, the dual lands, the cradle, but I don't think I have the Once Upon a Times and the Thalias. I usually play Food Chain in paper, which is a good bit of fun, but Force of Negation and Force of Will are a tremendous quantity of Moto tickets, and as such we do what we can with what we have. And thankfully, it's a wonderful alternative. Some basics. A bird. No, this is just like the. This is wow. This is almost a complete reflection of last game's start. Last match's start rather. Mana Dork, Plague Engineer, Thalia, Greens and Zenith, 3 lands. Street Wraith. Okay. Well, this could be some Death Shadow variant. It could also be Doomsday. Oh, it's Doomsday. Doomsday is probably, of all the most prevalent decks in the meta, Doomsday is probably the worst matchup. It looks grim. Alright. My hope is that I can untap and then Greens and Zenith for a Collector Oof to deny my opponent a Lion's Eye Diamond. Oh wait, no, it was a Vengevine. Oh, hello. Was not paying attention. Vengevine. Okay, this is something spicy. Okay. Fiery Temper. Okay. Okay. This is an elemental. Well, the line continues to be... Yeah. With any luck, I will live just long enough to find a Scavenging Ooze and be able to do just enough. Oh, that's bad. Madness. I greatly dislike this card. Mostly because I despise commander cards existing in Legacy. Well, this is rough. That Fiery Temper really changed the texture of this game. Zombie Imp, Vampire Berserker, and then Elementals. Grixis. I believe I'm just stone cold dead. I don't think there's a draw that can get me out of this, but I believe that you should make your opponents kill you. Yep. Hollow one. Okay, alright. Okay, alright. As far as things that do nothing, this card kills Hollow One, and it can also plink off Lion's Eye Diamonds. Pleasure is good in creature matchups, and Leyline of the Void is what we need. Thalia well, Thalia doesn't seem as bad as it traditionally is in this matchup. Safekeeper is poor. Gaddock is poor. I think Abrupt Decay is too slow to be good. Scrib Ranger doesn't do anything. Path to Exile is probably good, actually. Ramming Up Excavator is too slow to do stuff. Questing Beast is probably too slow as well. And it doesn't... Although my opponent has a deck that has combo elements, this doesn't do what it needs to. Collector Roof stops Lion's Eye Diamond, so I'm inclined to keep it. Once Upon a Time finds Dahlias and Knights. Night of Autumn is not at its best. Thoughtseizes might actually probably be not horrific in this matchup. I'll have to think about it. I think Hex Drinker doesn't do enough. Question is, do I want Thoughtseize or Thalias? And I think I'd rather have Thalias in this matchup. Weird as that sounds. Alright, well, let's see what we got. Would love to play first. Ooh, this hand is bad. I should have gone more into depth as to why that hand was bad, but it basically had only reactive spells and didn't have a way of powering out a knight on turn 2. This hand is very medium. The Swords of Plowshares is good, but Once Upon a Time will find me something, and Wasteland will likely have applications. But I think in this matchup, I'd like to go to 5 and see if I can find a ley line. Daggers. Okay. Well, we'll definitely keep this. We're keeping our lands, our Noble Hierarch. To put 2 on the bottom. The Force of Vigor is somewhat limited, and now it's between Swords of Plowshares and Thalia. And I think Thalia is probably gonna go. It does hit fire tempers and the likes. Yeah, no. There's a consideration here for me to get Bayou, but I'm going to get a Savannah, so if my opponent finds a way to discard a Fire Temper on turn 1, I don't get, I don't lose access to both of my spells. Guess, given that we also boarded out our Abrupt Decays, it's a reasonable line. If we untap with an Either Reliquary, I think we're incredibly favored, given that it can find Bojuka Bog. Ox of Vagonus, sure. I'm going to cast Once Upon a Time here, because I intend to wasteland my opponent. Or at least I was going to wasteland my opponent. But finding a Bojuka Bog is tremendous. So that's what I'm gonna do. Alright. Okay. Careful study. Dumps a snow-covered swamp and a fiery temper. Unfortunate. It's doubly unfortunate because it keeps me off another Reliquary unless I draw a land to cast it. Well, as they say, do unto others before they do unto you. And generally people always go for the blue source. That's a common heuristic in Legacy. If you have an option of wastelanding a blue land versus a non-blue land, you usually go for the blue one. And it's one that I'm going to adhere to. I don't know enough about my opponent's deck to know if that was correct or not. Likely a moot point. Taiga. Okay. Have some life. Oh, yes. Gonna play a big one. It doesn't get fire tempered either. Which is grand. Cycle Hollow one? Okay, that's good for us. Opponent is playing quite a deck. Definitely sweet. There's the LED. Okay. Strongly considering finding a wasteland to waste on my opponent. I'm going to do so. It accelerates the clock quite a bit. Means if I lose an either reliquary, I can... Okay, alright. Nice. We want to roll to 5. Because we found Bojuka Bog. Now I think Thalia might be a little slow. I'm going to bring these Thoughtseizes. Bringing Thoughtseizes against a deck that has Madness cards and Venge Vines and Ox of Agonis is a risky proposition, but I'm inclined to believe that it'll do something. Well, this is what we're here to do. If my opponent does not play a land here, I am just Thoughtseizing them. Okay. Thoughtseize it is. I'm very surprised they did not cast a Careful Study. Now they won't get to. Yep. Huh, well, there it is. Do I want to Green Sun Zenith for anything? I might just want to wait until I can get a Neither Reliquary with it. Or a Scavenging Ooze. I guess they have 2 Fiery Tempers they can cast. Although it would cost them about everything. Asking Root Wall, sure. Lizard. Alright, this is going to be a little crazy, but I'm going to use my 2-for-1 myself to kill a Lion's Eye Diamond to force the issue if they want to Fiery Temper my stuff now. Alright, they cracked it. I'm going to be taking a lot of damage. This is a Vampire Wizard. Ouch. Okay. Regrettably, this Plague Engineer is likely just going to trade with the Basking Root Walla. Because I don't want to... Well... Yeah, let's just take this face-up trade. Yep. It gains life. My opponent has quite the quantity of cards in their exile zone. Bonus and Bloodstained Mire. Plays a Petri Imp. Okay. Just signal that. I don't want to put myself dead to Fiery Temper. Be a bad way to go. So we're just going to take it a little slow. I don't think my opponent can't top deck land and Avengevine, so just get him in there. Okay. Alright. Now, my opponent has one turn to deal with something before they have to forever hold their peace. Is this when it attacks? When it attacks. What a silly card. Thankfully, I too have silly cards. No. Maybe there's a case for actually letting it attack, so I can deny my opponent that life gain, but I'd rather not have my opponent draw 3 cards. Beep. Yeah, this is a take on, I guess, the Root Wall of Vengevine decks. But seeing blue for Careful Study is not something I have encountered before. Alright. I don't know what my opponent could draw here. I'm glad they have the second resource. One thing that I do always look for in my silly graveyard decks that play Vengevine is the ability to actually hardcast Vengevine if you have a ley line. Alright, well, off to a good start. See how this develops. Interesting that we haven't run into any true blue decks. By that I mean decks that play Brainstorm, Force of Will, and maybe Daze. Sign of a healthy metagame. Aha! Where the opponent has been found. The coolest raven. This hand would be sweet if it did anything, but it doesn't, so I'm not going to keep it. And by not keep it, I mean we're going to accidentally press the keep button and look like a complete idiot. But here we are. This is the hand we were dealt, and this is the hand we for some reason decided not to mulligan, so you live with the mistakes you make. And if this is Delver of the blue-red variety, then 5 lands and 2 mana dorks is about as reasonable of a start as you can ask for without Source of Plowshares, I guess. The biggest concern in this matchup is not getting your spells dazed and not getting hit by flyers. One usually leads to the other, unfortunately. So, next turn I'll be looking to develop my mana a bit more. Again, really don't want to get dazed. Really, really don't want to get dazed. Of course, this could also just be an unfair deck, and everything I do and say is meaningless. Another Volcanic Island points strongly to a fair deck. Okay. Young Pyromancer. Alright, well. Here we are, I guess. That, well, I guess putting a counter on a Hex Drinker is fine. Otherwise I could have attacked for 2. Ah yes, Bone Crusher Giant, one of the premier mistakes of Eldraine. An absolute absurd magic card that shouldn't exist. But I'll get off my soapbox. Alright, well, playing around days accordingly. Let's see if we can make a 4-4. Huh. Get him in there. No force of will. One time. No, don't do it. Stop paying costs. No! True Name Nemesis. Another horrifying card. Alright, well. Well, yeah, folks, you hate to see that. On the other hand, this is a collection of creatures that do get stumped by one Knight of the Reliquary. That's a truly devastating card to see. Oh man, you really hate to see that. Forkbolt is... I don't know if this deck picked it up just to beat the Maverick and Elves, but it does a tremendous job of doing it. An utterly demoralizing card to see. Keep my opponent from casting a Bone Crusher, hopefully, maybe. Yeah, as far as the Legacy metagame is concerned, this is the enemy number one. This is the deck. If you don't have a good matchup against this deck, then Dex needs to reevaluate what it's doing. Or a reasonable matchup, I'd say. I think the matchup in this situation is reasonable, but this card is another horrendous commander addition to the format. I lose game one. Path to Exile, just want to kill flyers. Prelate on one does a good job. Choke can turn the game. Plague Engineer kills a lot of creatures, and Vraska, well, see what she does. Gaddock is bad. Sylvan Safekeeper is reasonable to protect creatures from Bolt and Submerge, but often you're so pressed on your mana you can't afford to lose the lands. Collector Roof does nothing. Once Upon a Times get dazed. That's what they do. Very regrettable. Alright, keep in removal spells and big creatures. I would like to play first. Oh. I'm going to keep this hand because it has a Noble Hierarch and a land that can cast on turn one and a follow-up land, but this is bordering on loose. On the other hand, Thalia is quite good against this deck and will often eat a counterspell, even though it's secretly also kind of good against my deck. Wasteland. Well, that's very good against me, but I cannot imagine that's correct. Alright. Is it for Athalia? Guess not. A second Wasteland. Oh boy, our opponent's really doing it, huh? Well, the good news is that I get a Dried Arbor. And then I can play Rabbing Up Excavator. Ooh. Playing Bajuga Bog wouldn't let me play around days anyway, so I'm just gonna jam this 3-drop. Hope it sticks. No! No! Stop that. Stop paying costs. Don't do it. Alright. I live in tremendous fear of getting blazing volleyed. I also just chose... Oh. Yikes. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Alright, that was a very good draw there. Actually gonna Bajuka Bog my opponent to keep them off Ethereal Forager. Fork Bolt, man. Gets you every time. Alright, our opponent is on the mono removal plan. There's a Delver, okay. Normally I wouldn't jam anything into this date, and I shouldn't. I really shouldn't, but I'm going to because I don't think they have it. It appears that I was correct. What have you got, opponent? Ponder. Well, Fork Bolt, Lightning Bolt, killing 5 of my creatures. It's not been good. Not one bit. No, sir. Alright, well. Nice, we got a 5-5. Alright, we're in the game. I did make a tremendous mistake, though, and I did leave my Ghost Quarter untapped, because now they can go Bolt on my Knight of the Reliquary. Now it's not as likely, but that would have been a dark, dark day to see that happen. This plays around days because I have a Knight of the Reliquary. Goodbye. Alright, my opponent should be dead next turn. Alright, nice. I think this is a matchup where occasionally I've played Duress in the sideboard of this deck so I can bring it in against Blue-Red Delver specifically. But as it stands, you can't really bring it spells that cost 2 life against decks that play 3/2 flyers and bolts. Being on the draw against a Daze deck is also not the place where you want to be. Oh man, this hand would be fantastic if Dried Arbor were literally any other Magic card in the deck. Anything else. As it stands, we have this stupid Dryad Arbor, and we can't Green Sun Zenith for a Mana Dork on turn 1. I'm considering throwing this back solely because of that. This is my least favorite card to draw in the deck. Absolute least favorite. Would rather see anything else. I'd rather have a 5 mana 2/2 that does nothing than Dried Arbor. I would rather have a 6 card hand. It does have a basic land, so it's not going to get wastelanded. I'm going to keep this and hope that this choke is enough. If I draw Once Upon a Time, or... I don't know, there's no more Once Upon a Times in the deck right now. If I draw one of my Mana Dorks, I'll be absolutely thrilled. That's all I want. Noble Hierarch, right off the top. Right here. Right here. Huh. Okay, it's not a Noble Hierarch, it's a Brubsky. But that's fine. That kills a threat. Always grateful to have that. Nice wasteland. Fetch land. Well, I'm actually just going to play this Noble Hierarch. My life is flashing before my eyes to see if I want to play to this Fork Bolt, but here we go. I didn't even consider that my Noble Hierarch was exposed to Daze there. Alright, well at least we're not getting Fork Bolted. Lame. So many wastelands. Okay. Alright. I'm just gonna slam this choke and hope it resolves. Unlikely, but... Oh my god. Alright. We're back in the game. Choke turns all my opponent's islands into Lotus Petals. Only answer they have to this, I believe, is Brazen Borrower. Yep. Good. Alright. Time to pray we don't get blown out by cards no one has played since 2016. Please don't have a misdirection. Please don't have a misdirection. Maybe I should have waited. Aha. Good. Daze does let them recoup their mana. Oh. Oh. Yes. I think I should have. No, I should definitely waste time beforehand. Ooh. Okay. Guess that was their draw for turn. I'm gonna do the smart thing. Just not get dazed. Not give them access to daze, rather. Mountain? Mountain. Bolt. Bolt. Okay. Maybe I should just cast this to increase the clock, but it'll take out a blocker if they just play a Sprite Dragon or something along those lines. Or a Delver. Or a Young Pyromancer. Or what have you. Nice. Nice. Stole that game out from underneath. Alright, let's see if we can get a trophy. Let's see. A lot of people have a bunch of trophies. Shout out to Grobs, another Maverick player out there. Doing the Lord's work. Ooh, I'm all the way down here. There I am, right down here. Oh, there's Bailey. Should check out his Twitch channel. Time to find another 4-0. Come on, big money. Give me a land spot. Love to play first. His hand is solid. Another Once Upon a Time deck. Okay. This could be Depths or the Mirror. Ooh, Vengevine. Okay. Alright, it's one of these. have you got? Can't pitch your fire timbers. Pitch a Vengevine. Is that it? Another Vengevine? Oh, that's scary. Alright, now we're in trouble. We need to fade our opponent, casting 2 spells. 2 creature spells. Alright, Faithless Looting is a good sign. Unless they slam 2 Basking Root Wallas. And this could have been avoidable if I had fetched for a... if I just played a Noble Hierarch off of Bayou. That's not good. That's 1 Root Walla. That means they have it. Ah, death. Sudden rapid onset of death approaching. That you hate to see. You just hate to see it. Ay, ay, ay. Man. Yeah, no, if I let off with Bayou Noble Hierarch, would have avoided this. It's so uncommon that you want to do all that. Can I actually win this game? If I block a Vengevine with a Questing Beast, my opponent gets in for 6. Not out of the question, but feels awful in terms of likelihood. Wow. Oof. Game of inches. Game of inches. Green Mythic Rare. Oh no, not this card. I'm upset this card manaces for 2. It's quite absurd. People are almost... Grix is like, okay, alright, that's a good draw. So, which one would I rather have? Collector Roof or Gaddock Teague? I think Teague is a little better at getting thrown under the bus. We're playing this. Yeah, we're playing a Gaddock Teague. No, we're playing a Collector Roof. So we can source the Plowshares before this Ravager attacks. We're done. Alright, well, we do just lose these. Bring in the ley lines. Can I bring in Prelate for Prelate on 1? Is that good enough? It is Careful Study. No, not good enough. Ley lines, Force of Vigor, and I think Thoughtseize is better than Thalia. After having played against this in an earlier round. Gaddock does little. Abrupt Decay is sadly too slow. Hex Drinker doesn't do it. Questing Beast doesn't do it. Scrib Ranger is poor. Yeah. We wanted a Path Exile. That's what we brought last time. Path Exile for the Sylvan Safekeeper. Yep. Okay. Well, post-board, the matches get a lot better. Leyline. No. I'm actually going to keep this hand. It has a lot of game to it. And, albeit I'm not going to... I don't intend to make a Knight of the Reliquary on turn 2. I can Thoughtseize a relevant spell in my opponent's hand. Okay. What? What the heck is this? Oh! Oh! Man, that's rough. If I don't intend to block with Knight of the Reliquary, I guess I do just want to Thoughtseize and play some Mana Dorks. That's a hit, I guess. I intend to throw Noble Hierarch under the bus to have the line of play a Knight and then sacrifice Rising Canopy on the... yes. Okay. I'd rather have a bird or Hierarch? I'd rather have a Hierarch. Okay. Alright. This game is winnable. This game is certainly winnable. Knight of the Reliquary will just brick. There are 4 power creatures. Oh no, what is this? Okay. Okay. Volcanic Island. Alright, that looks like a miss to me. It's time to load up on green sources. Done. All right. think this is very favorable for us. Now, a lot of people would think to get Bajuka Bog here, but we're actually going to Cradle. We're about to make some very large creatures. Thought using that Anya's Ravager was incredibly strong for us. The intent is to give it to him, ladies and gents. I should have exiled my Noble Hierarch beforehand. All right, we pulled through. I think Plague Engineer is good. Wanted that one in. I think Red Excavator was slow. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I wasn't aware how readily our opponents could make a Vengevine and Hollow One on turn 1. That's very strong. Ooh. Man. This is close. It's got a Sylvan library, but... Alright, here we go. This is what we're here for. 2 cards on the bottom. One of them is going to be a land. Trying to figure out if it's a wasteland. There's a world where it's also just Birds of Paradise. Because it's more vulnerable to Fiery Temper and the like. Also, if I want to go turn 1 Thoughtseize, then yeah, I think it's actually going to be Birds of Paradise and Wasteland here. It feels wrong because I don't get to Green Sun Zenith for something substantial. Definitely Wasteland. Could also be a Source of Plowshares. Source of Plowshares answers just the first creature they make if they go off. Oh no, they're not going to go off on turn 1, I guess. The Leyline. Okay. Sure. Firestorm. Do I want to take my opponent off Careful City or Faithless Looting? I guess it's pretty much the same. Anya's Ravager, they could cast. I'm going to take the Faithless Looting. Can I cast the hollow one? How do they cast the hollow one? Discard 2 cards. And they just put a 4/4 into play? Right? Yeah, I guess I could have done that last turn, but chose not to. I don't want to deal with a 4/4, so there we go. Discards Careful Study and Anger. No! I get to cast an On-User Ravager and attack with it. Ah! I hate commander cards! My name's Karl Schultz and I hate commander cards! Yeah. This is the reason I considered holding Swords of Plowshares instead of Thoughtseize. I guess they had to discard a bunch of cards to do that. I haven't seen Asylum Visitor out of them, but I suspect it's there. Okay. Barf. Well... It's a zombie? Okay. That's good news. This card is going to be the death of me. I hate this card so much. Good God. I really want a Green Sleeve for Knight of the Reliquary. Same time, I feel like I shouldn't wait. Stupid LED. Alright, well. Okay. Wanted something like that. Once upon a time. Does this deck just not have an answer to Leyline in it? It's gotta, right? Like an Assassin's Trophy or something? Watered Foothills. Alright, that's low. Oh no, my opponent's got a hard cast Avengevine. That's what they're gonna do. I hate Anye's Ravager. My goodness. What a fake card. Ah! Why does it draw 3 when it attacks? Ah! Takes 6 down to 7. This deck does absolutely silly things that I do not condone. Well, I'm dead to Firestorm et al. Actually, I'm not dead to... Well, I am dead to Firestorm. Unless I gain 4 life. No. Make a giant monster. It's only 6/6. Ugh. Dead to Avengevine too. That's demoralizing. Yep. Man, I loathe this card. Well, 4-1's not a bad out. Yep. Oh well. Playing against the deck twice, eh? I wonder what streamer decided to go and go nuts with that. Anyway, yeah, that's it.